Welcome back to the Screensavers. Forget that wonderland you know and love. Alice doesn't live there anymore. She's grown up. She carries a butcher knife, and she slices through her enemies like butter. This is American McGee's version of Alice. Gamers are loving it. I'm loving it. Its unique storyline, its incredible graphics, wonderful music have made it the hottest game out there right now. And here to tell us all about it, Mr. American McGee, Electronic Arts Creative Director. American McGee, welcome to the Screensavers. Hey, it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Have a seat over there. Look what you brought. You brought Alice and the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire Cat. Anybody who's read the books will immediately think this is something a little bit different.
A little twisted.
We loved the game. It was our Geek Library pick a couple of weeks ago, and so we thank you for
glad to hear that.
How did you get involved in all this?
I've been playing with computers since I was about 13,
yeah?
And it was just a strange stroke of luck. I happened to move into an apartment complex in which John Carmack also lived.
The guy who created Doom.
The guy, yeah, who created Doom, and he and I became friends. A couple months went by, and he offered me a job at id answering the phones.
Wait a minute. You started at id answering the phones?
Doing tech support calls.
Wow.
And
this was in what? During Doom?
For Doom, yeah. There was only two of us, and we both kind of figured out quickly that we weren't going to last there very long. Two guys answering all the support calls for Doom.
Yeah. That's not a great job anyway.
So, you know, started looking around for some other job inside of id that fit my kind of talents, and then it landed on level design.
Now, what is level design specifically?
Level design is where all of the assets that are created during the production process kind of come together. All the artwork, programming, sound effects, all the creatures are placed. You actually build architecture, you light, you texture.
Now, typically they have a tool. I know Quake and Unreal both have tools that give you ability to level design without knowing any programming. You're really a designer. They're almost drawing programs. Is that the kind of tools?
Like a CAD program, yeah.
CAD, yeah.
And then I took that a few steps further, taught myself how to program. I'd already known how to do that, but specifically for the games, how to do sound effects, how to get involved with, you know, a lot more than just building architecture.
So you didn't study this in school?
No, this is all self-taught.
Wow. You were a VW mechanic.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that amazing? That's really amazing. This is Quake.
Yeah.
Right here, Quake 3. Were you involved in Quake, or Quake 2, I guess? Quake 2 design?
Yeah, Quake 2, I sure was.
You did this?
No, I didn't make this particular map.
What's involved in making a map? Do you have to sketch it out first? How do you know?
Everybody works a little differently. Some designers do sketch out more quickly. They sketch out maps.
They make a map. Yeah.
Personally, I tend to work just kind of straight out of my mind.
You go room by room?
Yeah, you go on a room-by-room basis.
But then you can always go back and tweak it.
Yeah, it's you know, totally creative process. So you just sort of, it's almost like painting. I mean, you might go room by room, but then go back and destroy something you built to build something better. It's really fun.
Alice has a really beautiful, but also it's a very involved storyline and game design. It's all very interlocking. There are lots of puzzles. You didn't do this all by yourself.
No, but the original concept.
There she is. Oh, watch out.
There's a great big team of guys, 30 guys down in Dallas, Texas, that were involved in doing this, and they worked on it for 18 months.
Wow.
And you know, artists, programmers, level designers, sound guys, music guys. It's an involved process.
But your name is at the top, right above that there.
Yeah, that's more of a marketing thing than anything else. I'd actually sort of fought against that.
Really? You didn't want them to do that?
Well, it makes you feel sort of stupid, I mean, in a way, and here's a whole group of guys who are responsible for creating this thing, and
they're coming after you with a butcher knife.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make them feel so good.
But this, well, now credit where credit's due. This was your idea, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Why Alice? What was it about Alice?
Alice kind of offered really amazing characters, fiction, locations, and it answered some questions that I've been asking myself about game design. Since Doom, we've basically been playing the same types of games, Space Marine versus Space Alien, and Space Station with space guns. And it was like, let's break out of the mold here. I felt like we could do something different than basically recreating Aliens, the movie, over and over again.
And yet you're still, I mean, it almost looks like skinned Space Marines against skinned space aliens. I mean, it's a different look, but the same kind of battle going on.
Gameplay mechanics.
Would you like to get beyond that?
Yeah, I would actually. And
in future games?
Yeah, some plans to do some different.
Now, you were using the Quake 3 engine for this,
correct.
So you're kind of limited. Did you find it limiting?
No, not at all. I mean, that engine of all the ones out there is actually one of the more sort of free engines to, you know, to mess around with.
And you knew it as well as anybody,
yeah,
of course,
as did the developers.
Yeah. So you have an engine which is doing all the 3D rendering. It's telling you what you can and cannot do. You're really the storyteller. It's almost the engine is almost as if it's a typewriter or a computer that somebody's writing, or a movie screen. You really have to fill it with the story.
You do, and we worked really hard. We spent 3 months doing pre-production, creating the models, and trying to understand what our story was going to be.
Where do you start? You start with a prose story, with a written story?
Well, so the concept was the first thing I started with, Alice, and then a Wonderland Gone Bad, and then I sat down with concept artists and spent some time sketching out what our characters were going to look like.
And we have some sketches. These are quite amazingly detailed, vivid sketches. The story, just for those who haven't played the game yet, which you really have to, that's the jack bomb, which is probably the most useful weapon in there. I just love
good weapon.
That one is a nasty weapon. The story is that Alice has come back from Wonderland, but a horrible fire. Her family dies in the fire. She survives. Terrible guilt, racked with guilt. She ends up in a sanatorium. She's gone crazy. And really, this game is her fighting her way back to sanity.
Exactly. She's fighting against her own personal demons. And so she's almost got post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's a lot of areas where that shows up, even the fact that it's a third-person game. People who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder experience life from third person.
Yeah. But that's an interesting point. How much of this is you? I mean, how much of yourself is in there?
There's quite a bit of my sense of style, my personal aesthetic, and what I appreciate art-wise, music-wise, and sound-wise. I was sort of the art, sound, overall director for the project, so I made sure that's sort of where this twisted.
Incredible too, by the way. You did a brilliant job. It's one of the best games musically because the music never gets boring. It's constantly changing. It always fits what's going on, and it always heightens the experience, which is the whole goal.
Always important. There's a lot of movie directors that'll say that music is 50% of the experience. We worked with Chris Vrenna, who was a drummer from Nine Inch Nails, who also did music for Quake.
Right.
And he did a brilliant job. Took old children's lullabies and nursery rhymes and twisted them and came out just really well.
Let's get back to the process. So you do kind of the storyline. You do these sketches, which are kind of to give you the character a little bit, and then you do these.
Yeah, then we do three-dimensional models. These are called maquettes, and these help us visualize in 3D what these characters are going to look like, and we go through a lot of different versions of these as well.
Wow. I mean, here's the actual process. In fact, this is a video you can watch in its entirety at the Alice website, which is alice.ea.com. And so they wireframe those maquettes, and now they draw in the textures on top of that. Is that basically what happens?
Yeah, exactly.
And you saw some code going in there. Is there any coding involved?
Oh, lots.
There is.
Yeah. So there were actually, 3 pieces, big pieces of code that are involved. One came from id, the Quake engine.
Right.
The second piece came from Ritual Entertainment. They had used the same engine to do Fact 2, and so we took some extensions that they had written for that, plus wrote extensions of our own. And
so it is possible to extend the engine.
Absolutely.
To give it features that you want.
Absolutely.
No online component though. There's no network game to this.
No,
how come?
My own personal feeling about that is that you can invest 18 months of time doing just solely a multiplayer game, which people are doing that and being very successful at, or you can try to do a mixed game of single player and multiplayer, but I think the end result of that mixed game is going to be something lesser than if you had spent all your time focused on just single player or just multiplayer.
You have to decide. You have to balance your resources, what you can do and what you want to do. The only rap that people give, and I'm not sure I completely agree with this, but there is one criticism, is that the game's beautiful, it's really fun to play, but that maybe some of the gameplay isn't as interesting or as varied. How do you feel when they say that?
It's something that we knew was going to happen. Again, from the outset, I had planned for this to be something that would appeal to the mass market. The subject matter of it's known globally, and it would have been a shame not to create something that everyone, even a novice, could get into, play, and have a good time with. So it's something I knew was going to happen.
If there were no limits, and of course you're limited by the budget, by the engine, by your own creativity, but if there were no limits, what would you do with it? What kind of game would you do?
With Alice?
With anything.
Oh, with anything? I actually have something in my head right now, but I can't talk about it.
The next game?
There's a couple of next games, yeah. There's a couple of new ideas.
Will it be with Electronic Arts again?
Yeah, it will.
Well, we can't wait. How long does it take? It's going to be a year out, 2 years out?
These are about 18-month projects, yeah.
Wow. It's just like making a movie.
It is, very similar. And
by the way, there's a movie.
There is.
Wes Craven has optioned the game.
Yeah, the guys down in Hollywood saw the toys, they saw the videos that we've got up on the website, and then they finally saw the game, and they were just sold, across the board.
Who's going to play Alice, do you know?
We don't know yet. There's been a lot of speculation about that, and we've heard rumors of people being interested, but not much.
Wow. Well, this you can't buy in stores, the Mad Hatter, but Alice and the Cheshire Cat, these are action figures that actually are available as collectibles. That's just the beginning of the Alice Empire. Obviously, there's a lot more to come. And American McGee, whether your name's above or below the title, I do hope you keep giving us great games, because we Loved Alice.
Thank you.
Here. Wasted my whole Christmas vacation playing Alice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. American McGee. That's American McGee, everybody. Creative director at Electronic Arts. He's going to hang out in our chat room for the rest of the show. So if you would like to know more about game design or about Alice, don't ask him for cheat codes. Ask him some good stuff. This is the time to get in there. And if you want to know what goes into creating a good game, make sure you check out a really long, great article that American wrote for us. It's at thescreensavers.com. We appreciate the work on that. That was really fascinating.